I don't think I ever read the script. It was a yes from the beginning.
How many times does, a DP truly get to shoot like a black and white film?
Because I read the script, and I was like, okay, this sounds like a very Babalog film. And I saw the rushes and it is pure visual poetry.
I kind of wrote in 75% of them, and I left the remaining 25% to be contributed by the actual character of the people I cast.
The use of nature. There are beautiful nature shots, and what should be the quantity in that? How much we can use that nature shots.
We loved how intimate and personal it was. We wanted the soundscape to do it justice.
There's also something very interesting about this film, which is there's a way that we can romanticize the idea that we can collapse structural distinctions of class through love. Bhadra, congratulations. This is the Bombay premiere of your film. Thank you for sharing this film with us. This film is a lovely full circle moment because Dheera Johnson, who plays Nia, was actually part of G5A's Acting for Cinema workshop. And as a result of which she got a full scholarship, and she's at the Lee Strasberg Institute in LA right now as we speak. But you were the one who pushed her to apply for it. Can you talk about finding Nia through Dheera or Dheera through Nia?
Okay, am I audible? Okay, so this is the first time Dheera has faced camera. In fact, everyone in this film is facing camera for the first time. They're all non-actors. And from the beginning, I knew that the role of Nia is someone, she has to carry the entire film on her shoulders. So it was a gamble to cast someone who's never really acted before. But at the same time, I felt very sure that I wanted to make this film with an entire team of, entire cast of non-actors. And Dheera is someone whom, we've both grown up together in Himachal Pradesh pretty much. And she's someone I've known for a long time. And she lives in Manali. She used to work in her granny's school. She used to teach kids and she used to run a bar. And she's an artist, so she wears many hats. And she's always been a fantastic dancer. So I'd kind of known her for really long. And then I saw her, like how she transforms on screen, because she was part of this group that made this series called Soul Trails, which is like a docu-series of like a bunch of kids traveling from Manali to Leh. And I was like, wow, she really transforms on screen. She has this really strong presence and a very unique look. And I was like, yeah, I think, and that was around the same time I was forming the idea of Second Chance in my head. And I was like, that's Nia from the beginning. So I went and I spoke to her and I was like, do you want to try this? I know it's something you've never really done before. And she really liked the story. So she was like, yeah, I'm on. So of course I did a couple of auditions with her and I took them to my casting director and acting coach, Dilip Shankar. And he was pretty convinced that with some training, she would be able to carry off the role. So she went through a 1-month workshop with Dilip Shankar before the shoot. And and what you see on screen is the results. And so to speak a little bit about what happened after is, once we finished shooting, she had some time in Manali, and then she decided that she realized that she really enjoyed the process of shooting and she wants to act. So she came to Bombay and she was here for a few months, and she was, I think she did a play at Prithvi and she auditioned for some ads in which she got typecast as a young mother, of course. And that's when I heard of like G5A was doing its first collaboration with Lee Strasberg. And I saw that and I was like, oh my God, Dheera is going to be so perfect for this, because I always thought that like the kind of look and the kind of acting capabilities she had would be more appreciated in the West, is what I personally felt. So I was like, well, you should talk to her about the kind of reactions she got when she went for auditions here. They were just like, she has a very strong face, or she has a very mature face, and which is really, really weird stuff.
What is a strong face?
I'm still trying to figure out myself.
What is a weak face?
I have no idea. But anyway, I was like, this sounds really interesting, and it's Lee Strasberg, it's G5A, so just go for it. And there was one day left to apply. And she didn't have like an audition clip. So Tini and me were still editing. We were in the first cut of the film. So we took like one of the phone call scenes, the phone call that she has with Sheza, and we just put it together and we sent it across, and she got through to the workshop, and she did really well here. And at the end of the workshop, she won the scholarship to Lee Strasberg, which has now also been extended from 1 year to 2 years. So she's she's there and she's doing really well.
She's not coming back to Bombay.
I wonder. I know, because she's like, we talk every day, and she's like really stressed about her visa currently ever since Trump's come. So we're just trying to figure that out together. But she's very happy in LA. She loves the course, she loves the curriculum, and she's going to try to. I mean, if she gets the visa, she's going to try to work over there.
You said that she was a great dancer. Did that come into the film, or did the film sort of naturally express itself through her?
Both. So the process I followed for not just for Nia but for all the characters is I kind of wrote in 75% of them, and I left the remaining 25% to be contributed by the actual character of the people I cast. And for me, dance was always kind of like a part of the film, because from the beginning I kind of knew that Dheera is going to be Nia, and for me, dance was the only way she can really express her true feelings at that point. She can't, as you've seen in the film, she can't really communicate very well with her parents, and there's nobody else really to talk to, so the way she dances really reflects what she's actually feeling at that point, which is how we've tried to present it in the film. Yeah.
Now I'm going to ask you the question that you're probably sick of answering, which is about the black and whiteness, the form of this film itself. And maybe I'll bring in Swapnil and Sid, because like I was telling you, we see black and white films very often, but I think many of you might agree that the snow looks like a carpet of crystals, right? Like the way it shimmers in the sunlight and the way it looks at night. There's a way it's been shot and color corrected. So I want to bring both of you in, but also want to ask you about, why did you arrive at this form specifically? Because right now, there's a way in which the black and white film is fetishized, right? How do we make a film arty, turn it black and white? But on the other hand, there's also a deep disinterest with the black and white film. They think a black and white film is a boring film. And you have spoken about how producers were put off by that.
Oh, yeah.
So can we talk about both of that?
So I'll just keep it really brief. And this is always the first question. And I've answered it too many times, but we have to get the elephant out of the room. So from the beginning of, even before I wrote like a single word of the script, it was always a black and white film in my head. And I think the reason for this is basically it's the story of the protagonist. Nia is finding of light at the end of a very long and dark tunnel. And I felt that would be very well expressed in black and white. I know the valley where, I know this valley extremely well, and I wanted it to be a winter film. And I felt, again, like it looks very different in the summer, but in the winter, in black and white, it makes for this like really stark visual, which I felt also it would be slightly unique, and it's not. We haven't really seen the Himalayas in black and white that much before. And ultimately, it ended up helping me a lot with the local characters, because they're all tribals. They belong to the scheduled tribe, and the way they dress is actually super colorful. So the moment you turn this to color, it's like they just become caricatures, and it becomes like this National Geographic documentary or something. But I think black and white helped me like make them deeper, more multi-layered characters rather than specimens of a tribe. And on to Sid and Swapnil.
Yeah. Check. So Subhadra said black and white. I said okay. How many times does a DP truly get to shoot like a black and white film? And we spoke about it, of course, in deeper. But like the moment she said black and white, I said yeah, absolutely. That's where it started, and then we spoke more about how you start looking at the character's eyes, and things kind of fall behind, and how she really wanted to shoot it not just black and white, but wanted to shoot deeper, like wanted the focus to be not just on the characters, but the characters and the mountains together. So you shoot deep to get all of that. So those kind of ideas we kept on speaking about, and that's where it kind of started.
But Swapnil, even the way the faces are shot, like there's this, the contrasts are they're quite moving. I don't know what else to say, because you can see the contours on their face. There's a clarity with which they suddenly come alive. So can you talk a little bit about that as well?
I mean, so much of that has to do with the casting as well. You know, like there's such like even the shepherd. Like I don't have to do too much. You know, and like the idea is to not do too much, to keep it simple, to not make it intimidating. And like so, it was a really tiny crew. It was a 2-people camera crew for the film, and I mean, and it would just be me and the camera, and everybody else would be behind, and Subhadra would be somewhere slightly far away or something like that. So like to just stay away and do little things, as little as possible, to kind of, and then she'd cast it so well.
I mean, I casted keeping black and white in mind. So every time I turned the camera at any villager I was thinking of casting, or Nia for that matter, her first video, it was always black and white. So because there are certain faces that work really well in black and white, and there's certain others that don't. So, which is something I realized while I was casting.
What do you mean by that?
I mean, when you photograph a person, like there was this other really beautiful boy for the role of Sunny, and I was like, oh God, he's gorgeous, and he's got those apple red cheeks, which do transform to some kind of a texture on black and white, because Sunny has them as well, and the shape and the color of his eyes. And he was gorgeous, and I did like this casting video with him. And the moment I converted it to black and white, I was like, oh my God, all the charm is lost. Whereas Sunny, he's like absolutely like he flowers in black and white. So we always had black and white in mind, even while casting.
And Sid, what are the challenges of color correcting a black and white film?
None, actually, if it's shot by Swapna. I mean, we did like the most minimal amount of work. Like, I think we've just gotten done with Monica, and we've done like a lot of stuff on Monica, which he wanted to try. And Subhadra was like, no, none of this is working. And we just threw out all of it and just kept the image like very, very clean. And I don't think we spent more than a week on this grade.
I mean, I think you spent some amount of time. I came in and we were done that day.
Yeah, pretty much, yeah.
It was like just one day of grade.
Drew, I want to bring you in here because this idea of, one thing is how the film looks, but there's also how the film sounds. How does snow falling on land sound? There's a way to make it sound melancholic. There's also a way to make it sound haunting. Talk to me about creating the soundscape of this film.
Yeah. So when Anirban and I saw the film, we absolutely loved it. We loved how intimate and personal it was. We wanted the soundscape to do it justice. So we designed it so that we could see the world through Nia. We were in her head. And what was really great about doing the sound was that Subhadra was so involved in it. She would come by almost every day, and we got to work together, and we got to understand her vision. And it was a lovely experience, and very intimate, very grounded.
And we also used like a lot of real sounds. So all the layering that's been done has been done with, you remember the sound files I brought back from the recce, right? So
Yeah.
1 year after the shoot, because it had to be winter because the birds migrate and the leaves. I mean, so even for the sound, it had to be winter when I went back with a Zoom recorder and recorded like a list of sounds, like whether it's like water or leaves or
The owl?
velocity of wind. The owl is something Anirban had in his bank, and we made sure that it's a like legit Himalayan bird. And but like all these sounds I found and recorded on the Zoom recorder, and everyone in the village thought I was mad because I was just roaming around, and I would like even the sounds of the heater and different things, people chatting, I would slightly record that. And then we layered all of that so we layered the location sound that we already had with real sounds. And there's very minimal, if I remember right, there's very minimal Foley we've used in the film, right? Yeah.
It's all real
But
sound.
we shot the owl for real.
Oh yeah.
Tini, talk about, sorry?
No, we were actually thinking of, maybe getting like a stock for the owl, because we were there for like 34 days, and to find an owl at the right time of the day, all of that would have been just impossible. So we were already looking for stock footage for the owl, and then when we were shooting at the school, suddenly like me and my first chief, both of us are looking up and we see the owl, and I just nudged to Subhadra and it's right there. So that's how we got it.
Lovely. I mean, these serendipitous things are, this is what the accidents is what sort of makes the film so special sometimes. Dheera, talk about creating the rhythm of this film, because there is something meditative, quiet, but also something painful happening underneath all of it. So talk about how do you create that rhythm on the edit table?
So first I did a lineup at the beginning, and then we sit together and we made almost 4 rounds of edit, and later we became really ruthless about how the scene will become. So
in terms of time,
in terms of time, emotion, and how to proceed. And we also avoided that beginning, middle, end, that structure. We tried to avoid that procedure, and then we worked on the conversation scenes, how they will be edited. That we have discussed a lot, because how much information we should give in the telephone calls. And in the beginning, the first telephone call was not in the script. So we decided later, because when the information will come that Nia had an abortion, so that was important for us. So that's the thing. And also the use of nature. There are beautiful nature shots, and how what should be the quantity in that, how much we can use that nature shots. And that we have decided.
All the nature shots.
Not sand.
In the beginning, there were so many beautiful nature shots, and we just put them in everywhere. And that wasn't really making any sense. But then we figured out that we romance nature when Nia is herself romancing nature, or rather healing through nature. So that's what we
wanted to do.
Yeah.
Oscar, I want to bring you in here, because as a producer, when you're told that there's this black and white film that is being shot, I think one thing that she had said in interviews before was that put producers off. What was your first reaction? What was your involvement with this film?
Well, actually, full credit to my producing partner, Shyam Vora. He really worked really hard as a producer on this film. I was more of a bystander. But when I got the script, I was not sure this is something we wanted to do. Because we normally work out of the Northeast with Vasami Cinema. This is the first time we're trying to do something. So we had a little discussion where I said, are you sure? Because I read the script, and I was like, okay, this sounds like a very Babalok film. But I saw the rushes, and I saw the rushes, and it is pure visual poetry. I'm the biggest fan of this film. I'm so glad I'm part of this film. And I don't miss a chance to see this film on a big screen. Last month I saw it in Guwahati. This month I saw it here. Hopefully next month I'll see it again. I think, like I said, this kind of film is difficult to push into the mainstream, but that was never our thing. We would have been doing Hindi cinema a long time ago. That's what we wanted to do. We just wanted to do good cinema. And this kind of cinema is dying. I don't know which way you want to take it. But
what do you mean this kind of cinema? Like independent movies or black and white movies?
Where you spend 2 hours completely absorbed into a different world. This is the world of reels and short form, content. People don't have patience for this kind of cinema. So it's really heartening that so many people have come here today. And from what I gathered, they all enjoyed it. So cinema does, have its place if people give it that space, And I think it's very important as producers to make films like these. Even though, you may not, end up making money. But art is not just about making money. Otherwise, we'd have been doing some business making soap or something. So all in all, I think this is a fantastic.
Thank you so much. I think Sid is a co-producer as well, so I would like to hear what he has to say.
I mean,
So
Did you also think it's a
behind
Babalog
almost
film
all the
initially?
most of the good cinema that's happening in our city now.
Yeah, but I mean, we don't really sign up for money ever. It's usually about being part of an artistic project. So, I mean, there is no question, especially when you have a team like this. I don't think I ever read the script. It was a yes from the beginning.
It was just a pitch.
Yeah.
I love it.
Sid saw the second cut, no? But even before that, he was like,
we
oh,
actually
I mean,
did the look tests and everything. We built the LUT as well.
So something that Bhaskar said, which I find interesting, is that this idea of this 2-hour meditative film, and maybe Tini Subhadra, you can talk about how the film is atmospheric, but there's also a plot that's running through it. And there's this balance that you have to strike between immersing you in the world and taking you through the world. They're two different things sometimes. And for many people, they're contrasting things. So can you talk about this dialogue that you all created between the two of you to keep the film focused, but also to keep the film embedded in the world?
I think the key to that, we did fumble around for a while, especially in our first cut. We were all over the place and we were so excited and we just put in every shot that we liked. And God, it was a mess. Eventually, of course, with lots of hard feedback, because we went with our first cut to the Global Media's Makers residency in LA. And that was pretty brutal, but it was needed. And eventually what we realized is like is that we just need to follow Nia, we need to follow Nia's story and her psychological state at that point. And because of the situation that Nia finds herself in, that there are those points of like long meditative, which in the beginning is in fact pretty depressive moments, which are kind of stretched. But then, okay, Sunny throws a stone at her and it breaks like that, So I think that really helped us. Once we got our finger on that pulse is when we really started to make a couple of breakthroughs, and a editing pattern kind of evolved eventually, is what I feel. No?
We actually wanted to tell Nia's story. It became more and more clear when we were editing that, and we got feedbacks also. So that was our driving force, that we have to tell Nia's story. And then it was very clear that how the nature shots will come and how the other characters will come, what informations will give in what time. So that's the way. Yeah.
Lovely. Can you talk about the influence of filmmakers that, in some sense, manifest in your film language?
There are two very different schools that I think have manifested here. Because I do remember re-watching a lot of their films while I was writing, and sometimes one day after a long recce, or I would just put on Iranian cinema, in particular Kiarostami and Majid Majidi, for the local world and the non-actors and kind of the poetry in the mundaneness of life, perhaps. And for the female protagonist, she's still my favorite, one of my favorite filmmaker, Andrea Arnold. So like her trilogy of like American Honey, Fish Tank and Red Road, on how close you can get to a woman, a young woman coming of age, dealing with various things, not a perfect, like a very, very flawed character, but you're still with her throughout. So I think, I know it, I don't know if you really see it in the film, but those were the influences for me as a writer and a director, in a way, I think. Even
the Pannal and Gauri Shinde, they're very different film worlds, but like you can see them somewhere in this film.
Yay, that's a compliment.
Subhadra, can we talk about, these are all non-actors, the difficulty but also the pleasures of working with a blank slate? Because you'd mentioned in one of your interviews that sometimes your actors wouldn't know the difference between performing and being, and how you had to sort of come in and intervene sometimes. So do you want to talk about that?
Yeah, so the reason I decided to go with like non-actors for this film is, because I know a lot of you know me. For those of you who don't know me, I was born and raised in Himachal Pradesh, and then I came to Bombay for college. So this is the place where I've grown up. So I know it very, very intimately. And so I know the way people talk, the kind of language they use, the way they look, the way their faces are lined because of the exposure to the Himalayan sun, the way their hands are because of the way they work in the earth. And not just that, but also they have a kind of a philosophy and a sense of humor. So like I know it too well to have actors be able to pull it off as convincingly, unless of course you have a really big budget and you have like actors to hire them to like live in the area for 1 year and figure that, which of course we didn't have. So I knew like the first litmus test that an actor would have to pass would be through me, and that would just never pass. So I decided to cast in the local community, also because of the inspirations of Iranian cinema. They're all non-actors and they're also good. So that was where it started, and the casting process was quite long and arduous, where I would go out into various villages and look for interesting faces, first photograph them, then go in, if they photographed well, go in for like a kind of a piece to camera in which they talk and tell me. I ask them certain questions and they answer, and the ones who did that well we would do like a pretend scene and various rounds. And through all this, like I would send the auditions to Dilip Shankar, who's our casting director and acting coach, to just have somebody to talk at, and an expert who knows what this person's weakness might be or what the person's strength might be. So that was the process we followed for casting till we ultimately reached this cast. And the final step was, of course, convincing them to actually act in the film, because they're all regular people with like regular jobs. Like Raju, he cooks midday meals in like the government school, so he had to take chutti for those many days. And Bhimiji, of course, she has her own orchard and stuff and various things. The shepherd had like his own flock that he would take, and like every shoot day was like really complicated for him because he had to like find somebody to take care of his sheep so he could come and shoot. So there were all kinds of like these, and he would not like leave them with just anybody. He was like, no, he's very protective about his sheep. He was. Anyway, so those were the hurdles while we actually cast. Once we got to set and we started working, there were certain methods that like I'd figured out, like what you get, you're only going to get in the first 3 takes at the max with non-actors. Beyond that, it's going to be very hard. So you have to sit and think on your feet and be able to improvise something else that might work, that will not deflow your script completely. And when we did rehearsals, for example, I wouldn't do rehearsals on set, but like during the acting workshop, we would never rehearse scenes from the film. We would make up new scenes which had a similar emotion. You're looking confused. No. And for example, like to give you an example, like with Raju and Bhimiji, we did in the rehearsal, we did a scene in which the first time they meet after Sunny's mother dies. So to get them to be able to, have that history to tap back on when they're acting, and also to be able to see how the saddest, how they can deal with like being able to show grief, etc. So, and on set, it was just, in the beginning, it was easier, but as the days progressed, they're non-actors, so it takes a toll when you're just waking up very early every day and doing the same thing again and again in front of camera, and they weren't very excited about it anymore, but they pulled through till the end.
Yeah, they were happy by the end.
They were so happy on the last day. Oh my God. We all were, actually. They were very happy. And I think one thing, and this is something Tini really, really liked. I don't know how she nailed it, because I don't think you'll realize this, but like Bhimiji, the old lady, she can't read or write. And she has a lot of like long dialogue scenes. And she was really good at everything else, but then she got this into her head that I can't say the dialogues. And so those scenes were very, very hard to shoot. We somehow shot them. And when I looked at the takes, I was like, oh my God, this is just unwatchable. And what are we going to do with this? And Tini just somehow managed to like slice them into a way that she looks like quite an accomplished actress. So yeah, thank you.
Yeah, they say that a film is made thrice, right? Once when it's written, when it's shot, and when it's edited.
Oh,
So,
absolutely,
yeah.
absolutely.
But there's also something very interesting about this film, which is there's a way that we can romanticize the idea that we can collapse structural distinctions of class through love, right? It's a romantic, slightly problematic idea. You have a very interesting way of dealing with that, with this idea of the savior complex, the rich saving the poor being the catalyst to the rich person's journey. Can you talk about how you man, because there's a very fragile way in which you're dealing with that in this film.
Yeah, I remember being concerned about this, and even when my script was in various labs, then I did certain mentors did bring it up, and it was a bit of a concern for me. I've tried my best to handle it in a humane way. I was, one of the inspirations for Second Chance, the primary inspiration was to tell a story about healing and our relationship with Mother Nature. But another theme that I really wanted to deal with was unlikely friendships that cuts across class divides. I mean, to be honest, I'm from, I am like similar to Nia in terms of like my family background, the class I come from, and so I have had similar relationships with, like ancestral domestic help. It's just that I don't know if it's still just a concept in like the more rural areas. So I played pretty true to life. And I also I think through the story is, as the story unfolds, we realize that there are all these differences, but then there's so many things that bind at least these three characters together, which are so human, whether it's about the need for a mother when you don't have one, or that need for a child when you feel you might have lost one that you wanted, which kind of binds the three of them across divides, not just of class but also of generation. And as far as the savior complex is concerned, yeah, I do know, like in the end Nia does like kind of invest in Sunny's future at the post office, and she buys tickets for Bhimiji to... She doesn't buy tickets for Bhimiji to go to see the shepherd because Bhimiji can't afford those tickets. Of course she can. Bhimiji would just never do it because, I mean, she's so shy and she's so sheltered and shackled, I would say. She needs a push from someone. So buying those tickets is not a monetary thing. It's more like a push of support. And even for Sunny, I think more of the contribution is actually opening his eyes towards like, okay, you want to go to the moon, that's fine, but instead of Superman, there's this thing called an astronaut, and the idea that she kind of plants into his head. So I think it does go beyond material savior groups. Hopefully, I tried.
Okay. We also talk about how your film has been received in other countries, because we're talking outside about the idea of a house help, which is alien to a lot of cultures. Like, how are they reacting to it? Abortion is again another example.
Yeah, like in North America, of course, I had to speak about abortion because it's that burning issue. The film is generally received. I mean, it's been received pretty well, I think, thankfully. Like, I was super nervous for the world premiere at Karlovy Vary because it's a East European country, and it's Czech in Czech Republic and all. But I think there is something in the film, like especially the humor and the emotion that just kind of transcends boundaries. And there are certain things that I do have to explain, like in America about abortion, and in Europe I had to a little bit get into this thing about, yes, in India it's common to have domestic help, and the wide range of economic inequality and stuff like that. So
there's one, like, it premiered at Karlovy Vary, which is like most of the audience is a non-English speaking audience, and so after the screening was done, there was a Q&A, and one person asked, so now that Subhadra, you brought the film here, what do you think are the similarities between our Czech culture and the film? And she said that you've seen the film, what do you think are the similarities? And one lady in the back, she raised her hand and she's like, the place where Nia opens the box and then there's a book that comes out, and she opens the book and then there's a dried flower in there. The illustrator of that book is a very famous Czech illustrator.
And I was
So
like,
out
really?
of nowhere, you know, so you never know what is seen by whom and what touches which, you know.
The other place, Busan. So Busan had a really interesting question and answer session, as Busan always does. And over there, as I was hoping, and it didn't happen, because there is a strong Eastern philosophy that is the backbone of this film. So I was asked a lot of questions about it being some questions about the Buddhist nature of the film in Busan. So that's the different.
On that note, Dhruv, Bhaskar, Sid, Swapnil, Tini, Subhadra, thank you so much for your time, for your artistry. Thank you for being such a lovely audience. Have a lovely evening.
Thank you so much.